Hello, and thank you for watching this tutorial on entering subcontractors into your labor pricing for a profit software version 6.0. Subcontractors can have a significant impact on your overall company and your overall profitability depending on the size of your company and the volume of subcontractors that you use. Now, many contractors will have a relatively small amount of subcontractor costs over the course of a year, $5, $6, $7, even $10,000. And if that's all that you have, I would encourage you to simply enter in subcontractors as a variable expense in your model itself. Other contractors, on the other hand, will have a very significant amount of subcontractor volume, $50, $60, $70, even $100,000 in total dollars exchanged for subcontractors. On top of that, many contractors will actually add a margin or a markup on top of the subcontractor cost before passing it on to the end user. As a result, this increased margin or profit will offset some of the overhead for our company model and will impact our hourly rate. So we want to make sure that we get it entered properly if we have that kind of a volume. So let's go ahead and get started entering subcontractors into our company model. Now, to enter subcontractors into our model, we're simply going to click on the Costs Input icon on the left-hand toolbar under Setup. When we do that, the Cost Setup company will open up, and on the right-hand side of that window, you will simply choose Subcontractors. Once you do that, the Cost Setup window will automatically reconfigure itself for subcontractor entry. Now, to enter a new subcontractor, we're simply going to click on the New icon. And when we do that, the subcontractor entry window itself will open up. Under subcontractor description in the upper left-hand corner, we'll simply enter in the name of this particular sub. Okay, we can hit our tab key. And now there's a number of other boxes that allow us to tell us a little bit about this subcontractor and the volume, the dollars that we're working with over the course of the year. The method to apply gives you several different options. How do we want to apply these dollars into the cash flow model of our company? We've got monthly, which simply states that we'll apply it evenly throughout all 12 months of the year. Quarterly says we'll apply it once per quarter. Semi-annually says we'll do it twice per year. Annual, we're going to apply it all in 1 month throughout the year. Manual means we can manually dictate when this expense will hit, and direct labor hours says that we will apply this based on the direct labor hours that we're actually working in the field. Now, I'm going to hold off on choosing one of these at this point in time because I want to explain some of the other options before we actually start entering data here, so we can actually work through a couple of different scenarios. The item starts in is the month of the year that this particular expense will start. So we're going to, at this point, simply choose January. Monthly subcontractor cost. Again, since at this point in time the method to apply is set to monthly, we have to enter in the amount per month that we are going to see as an expense for this particular company. At this point in time, I'm simply going to enter in $1,200 per month. Next, we've got markup. Software is looking for a markup to be added to the subcontractor cost. Now, don't confuse markup with margin. Markup is a multiplier that we're using, so we're simply going to take the cost times a 1.25 for a 25% markup. But again, don't confuse markup with margin, because a 25% markup is not a 25% profit. It's only a 20% profit. The chart shown to the right shows the comparison between markup and margin. If you want more information about the differences between markup and margin, simply click on the link next to the markup box in your software model. The annual subcontractor revenue is now calculating the total cost throughout the course of the year based on the settings that we've entered above. Now that we've talked about each of those fields, let's go back and look at a couple of different examples. First off, in our case right now, we're set to method to apply as monthly with a monthly subcontractor cost of $1,200. In the monthly allocation window on the right, we can now see that the software has placed $1,200 into every month of the year. Now we've got both the cost and the revenue showing the same price because at this point we don't have a markup listed. If we typically mark up our subcontractor invoices by 25%, as soon as we enter in that 25% markup, the software will now calculate our revenue including the profit, that markup that we just entered, into our model itself. So we are going to see invoices, a cost of $14,400 per year, and we're going to sell that subcontractor labor for $18,000. The next choice, we'll change this method to apply to quarterly. Once we do that, we can see that $1,200 is taking place once per quarter throughout the year. Now, even in this particular case, we can change the item starts in to a different month. If I change this to February, you'll notice that the actual months that they hit shift now to February, May, August, and November. If I change the method to apply to semi-annual, we can see it hits twice per year. If I change it to annual, again, it's going to hit once per year starting in February. The next item again is manual. Now again, if I indicate that it's manual, we now have the ability to enter the individual months that these subcontractor costs will hit and how much they will be. So we can simply go through the year and enter each of these subcontractor costs, and it will still add my 25% markup to each of those items. The last option that we have for method to apply, again, is direct labor hours. Now, once we choose that, you'll notice that the window changes completely. We now have a column on the right labeled billable hours. When you entered your employees into the software, it immediately tallied up all of the billable hours that we have for all the field labor employees that we have in our company. So we can see that in January there's a total of 338. In February there's 329 hours. In May there's 378 hours. So it's varying based on what you entered in your employee costs setup. Now, the allocated cost for the subcontractor is going to be based proportionally based on those billable hours. And the mindset here is that the more work that we're doing in the field, the more we're billing the customer, the more that we're going to need subcontractors. And so it will spread it proportionally based on those billable hours and allocate our revenue with that 25% profit accordingly. The next section in our subcontractor entry screen is the comments. This section simply allows you to put any kind of comment that you would like. And again, it's purely for your information, so utilize it as you wish. The last step in entering subcontractors is to allocate these subcontractor costs to various departments within our company. In our particular case, this entire cost is for our installation department, so we're going to highlight that. We can see we're entering the allocation for our installation department, and we can key in our percentage. And again, we can split those costs across the various departments as we need to. Now, one final note regarding these costs. Remember that subcontractor costs are allocated to the various departments based on the percentages that we enter here in the subcontractor cost and income allocation. So in other words, if we've got 300 total dollars allocated in January, but 50% of that is for service, 50% of it is for installation, our software model is immediately going to apply $150 or 50% of that to our service and $150 to installation. And it will do that throughout the specific months that have billable hours applied to them. At this point in time, we've now allocated 100% of our total expense, and so we can now click on the Accept button to add that cost into our model. So we can see we've got the electrical subs. It's based on direct labor hours. We've got a total cost of $6,980 with a 25% markup, and that will net a resulting revenue of $8,725. This concludes this particular tutorial for the labor pricing for software subcontractor entry. The next tutorial will get into adding other income. Thank you.